Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Uncertainty Brief. This is episode 6, and we're super excited about what we have to chat with you about today. I'm your host, Paula Schaefer, and this is my co host, Susan Goebel. Susan, why don't you introduce our guest today?
Oh, I'm super excited, Paula. You and I could not wait to talk about this particular subject
Hmm.
near and dear to our hearts. We've partnered with this wonderful, new, incredible startup firm that has come out of my province of Ontario. And I cannot wait to have that conversation with John. John, welcome to the Uncertainty Brief.
Hello,
So
Susan.
glad you took time to come out today.
Thanks
Uh,
for having me.
we have so much fun things to talk about, and I know at the end we're going to tell a little bit of more and stories how people can reach out. So stay tuned until the end. But let's dive in and talk about AI and automations and the skill sets. Now, sometimes it can be a little scary for people to dive into some of this stuff. You got more experience than we do, John. Go for it.
Yeah, as somebody who's trained and sat on the front lines with folks who are taking their first initial steps into AI, these are folks who are usually working with spreadsheets. They're on the front lines of the problems that they're experiencing every day, and coming into an AI world, an AI first world. There's a lot of concern about security. There's also a lot of concern about cost, and both of those things combined, I think, really take away from the utility of AI itself and AI as a capability. Because once humans kind of get unlocked and really get going with it, um, it's really incredible to see the transformation not only in their daily work, but in their attitudes and in the culture at work. And I've been a proponent of that. So I think if we can address security and we can address cost, then I think we can get
Yeah.
confidence built up within AI.
Yeah.
Well, and
Well, I
part of
mean, look,
this,
Oh,
go ahead,
go
Susan.
ahead, Paula.
Okay. I was going to say, when you're talking about, I mean, those are valid concerns, right?
yeah,
The
certainly.
cost can ramp up very quickly if you're not paying attention, especially in a token driven world.
Yeah.
It reminds me of when CRMs first came on the scene, and we were, getting people into these cloud-based systems, and it was the number of people in your database was how you got charged,
Mhm.
which basically meant that as soon as you started to be successful, your software stack became unaffordable
Certainly.
Mhm.
for a
Yeah.
lot of companies, right? Is the same thing true for AI?
I think so. I think so. And
Okay.
I talk to manufacturers, critical industry companies, manufacturers, miners, agri-food companies, and construction. And a lot of it seems like there's compounding costs into what they do. So every time we get a little bit of marginal increase at work, maybe we get a little bit better. We've hired somebody. It just seems like the software tools are there with their hands out to take a little bit of that marginal increase. So the costs are really compounding and they're never plateauing for organizations. And it's coming to a reckoning now, where folks are looking at their income statements and seeing a really big number under their tech spend and wondering if there is a line or anything building on their balance sheets. And I think that that's a valid concern with AI too. It's only going to get worse.
It's super interesting that you talk about tokens. I didn't know this, but there are actually awards being given out by OpenAI for massive use of tokens. Did you know that? It looks very similar to the YouTube subscriber things that you would wind up getting. So I know somebody who just got one for like 1 trillion tokens or something. I was like, wow, I had no idea. But you're right. And the business model that tends to be used by most SaaS is also a per seat piece. So not only is it
Yeah.
number of tokens, but every time you have a larger organization, so you're a little more successful, you bring on a person, now you're adding extra seats across all those different tools and tech stacks. Your costs can really skyrocket quite quickly.
Certainly. And a
Well, and
lot
I
of the
think that,
times there's redundancy, there's overlap in what those tools actually are able to do for the organization. So I think there's a lot of redundancy being paid for. Go ahead, Paula. Sorry.
oh, I was going to say that, and to the redundancy component, one of the real risks with the tokens, like you think about that company with the trillion AI tokens, if they have that integrated into anything else, they're paying for tokens in their middleware. They're paying for tokens on their other platforms. And so when we think about doing things with people, right, John walks over to your desk, Susan, and hands you a piece of paper and tells you what to do with the piece of paper. There's nothing between you and John. Company pays for you and they pay for John. With AI, there's processing that happens in the middle that also gets right. So there's a road tax that happens,
Mm.
and it can get up. The cost can get up. Having said that, that's always mitigatable, right? The inefficiency cost suddenly becomes really visible in your business, and you think something you should do it with AI because oh wow that's cool, and there's a simpler AI that you can use to get the job done that's cleaner and neater and elegant. I remember it's the one thing I remember from my programming classes in university is always the talk about the elegant coding solution. Elegance is an important thing.
Go ahead, Susan.
Oh, I was just going to say one of the first things that we like to do from an operational efficiency standpoint is look at the tech stack. And I think, John, for what I've learned a lot of from you is the free and open source solutions
Yeah.
and some of those pieces. And so if you could talk a little bit about those, because I think we're down to, pennies a day now with our tech stack costs, because for the most part, we've been able to eliminate a lot of different things.
Yeah, so as an AI trainer, creating that safety, that security for the folks who had these concerns, these two big concerns, cost and security, it was really up to Brock and I to really go back to the drawing board and figure out if I was a Canadian critical industry business or business at large, and I wanted to maybe have a little more control, and I was looking for linear costs of technology instead of compounding cost technology, how would I facilitate that? And how would I do it while gaining security and compliance and all those things that we look at in the 21st century within our tech stacks. So we actually partnered with a few sovereign data providers here in Canada to spin up servers. And we started experimenting with free and open source software, and we're finding that, first of all, software built for utility is beautiful to work with. Elegance, you said elegance, Paula,
Yeah.
that, a developer takes a lot of pride when they can deliver utility without the complexity of how to extract your money. So that's one thing I really like about open source tooling. And the second part is that we can start to unify data onto a MySQL database that lives on our server, and we start to build data as an asset to our company. And when we talk about applying intelligence over our data, it becomes extremely successful across several software as a services. We're hitting endpoints,
Mhm.
we're spending tokens versus being able to stand up kind of our own digital twin, if you will, our data twin on our own servers and be able to apply intelligence there without that kind of fear of those compounding costs. And that's one of the strategies that really started Evermore as a steward of sovereign Canadian infrastructure and leveraging open source technology. So it's a very good point, Susan. And to your point, we're down to, you know, dozens of dollars a month, I think, in infrastructure as opposed to hundreds or we're a team of under 10. So imagine a
Mhm.
team, that gets into thousands really fast. And I've seen some over the years going to manufacturers. I've seen some incredible software spends.
Yeah, they get pretty significant. And you've raised something, John, actually, that is equally important for corporations in this day and age is data sovereignty and having control over who has access to your data, the circumstances under which they can have access to your data, and what can be done with your data. And we're seeing in the world, data is the new gold,
Hmm.
right? If you can control the data, you control the people.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
so let's
it's
talk
really
about data sovereignty.
I think there's a few different layers of data sovereignty. I think there is kind of the corporate data, but I think there's also a big kind of there's a personal data that we kind of look at the lens of
Mhm.
consumers because we're all experiencing AI in real time too, as it's being, implemented on our phones and our operating systems. So I look at some of the open source tooling that we use. It looks and it feels like ChatGPT, but it lives on a server where we implement it. And the one thing becomes around user authentication is we don't actually verify your email address. It doesn't really matter the identity that you create to to interact with the AI versus Silicon Valley knows that you verified your email. In fact, it sent you a link and you said this is in fact my identity. So it knows without a doubt that when you're pinging ChatGPT, who it is. And while they might say they're not training on your data, they're certainly training on your conversations. So while the models aren't training, they're analyzing your conversations, right? So it's an interesting concept on a personal data. If you ask Chat GPT versus our open source solution, which could very well be accessing the same AI endpoint, ask them a question, tell me about lean manufacturing. The open source model is very deliberate because that's just working with the AI model versus Chat GPT is like, oh my God, John, that's a brilliant question. Wow. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of the application. That's the black box that sits between you and the AI that's designed to keep you engaged. So that's a personal data thing. The corporate data thing, and I think in 2018, when the US government passed the Cloud Act,
Hmm.
I don't think we were really concerned about, well, what if the US government asks for data that is, on a Microsoft server in Canada or on a Microsoft server in France and they can access it? They're our buddy. It's okay. But now we look at the 2018 Cloud Act through a different lens. And so Google, Amazon, and Microsoft are the biggest US companies that have servers and infrastructure around the planet, and they're stewards of a lot of corporate data. The 2018 Cloud Act says if the White House or the US government asks for that data, no matter where it's housed on the planet, they get it.
I'm going to suggest we switch, though, to the more exciting piece of this. Because, yes, so we know that there are security concerns.
Mhm,
We know that there are data sovereignty concerns.
mhm,
Sounds to me like there are solutions to both of those. And I think, every company needs to have a conversation with someone who facilitates AI adoption strategy to
mhm,
explore those options and I think that's the big takeaway, right? Is have a conversation with somebody who does this and let's explore those options and let's find alternatives for you so that you make an informed choice when you decide that you're going to go forward with an AI adoption.
and I think if we just view AI through the lens of products and technology, then I think we'll run the risk of why I'm
Mhm.
human. And I think that that's really, at Evermore, we really look at AI as a human capability and that this is about kind of at work. The best analogy I have is kind of really for once and for all. Silicon Valley's been promising for 50 years to actually automate those mundane tasks that many of us do at work and those dollar tasks. And the opportunity at AI is to really empower humans to focus on more meaningful work, the $5 decisions, the $10 decisions, while we really actually get rid of those tasks. And I think that AI viewed through a human lens isn't so scary. The hard part is learning as an adult because we're all experts at something. And it's a very jarring and vulnerable experience to be in a workshop where you feel like everyone's speaking Greek and you don't understand the language but eventually through curiosity, through beginner's brain, through getting out of expert brain, through a crawl, walk, run methodology, we can all get there. And the beautiful part about this is that all of our fellow countrymen and everyone has said we're all in on training one another. And
Yeah.
I think we'll see our governments, who have been largely our AI investments, have been going into companies, to private entities. I think we're seeing a big shift to say, let's put the money into training. Let's put the money into upskilling Canadians as a whole. And I think
Yep.
that is an indicator to me that, hey, maybe we're all onto something, that this is about each other and this is about humans doing more meaningful work. This is about actual better days for workers and Canadians and that sort of thing. So I'm going to lean into the very hopeful, optimistic side of the opportunity and continue down that path.
Yeah. Well,
I
and
was
I think some of the, sorry, Susan.
I
Um,
was I was amazed at the amount of time that my clients and I, for example, spend, and I'm sure you both see this as well, at moving the data in our organization. And so to your point, if you can automate that this data goes from point A to point B rather than I have to spend this minute, this 2 minutes, this whatever, it all adds up. And stats right about now are talking about 20 to 30% of our time is actually spent just moving data. That's a
yeah.
lot. And so when you talk about those $5 and $10 decisions, can we please get rid of the things that we can actually not have to be a part of?
Mhm. How
Yeah.
many times have you been too busy doing the work to try and do some work, right?
Correct.
We've all get stuck on like our priority list just is sitting static for almost a week sometimes because we get caught up in this. So, and I'm not going to try to ever profess to be a productivity expert, but I often get questioned as, the AI opportunity through the lens of the Canadian productivity crisis. On a global scale, we are
Yeah.
one of the least productive nations, but we also lend ourselves to a high rate of customization in all our work. We're standouts for a high rate of customization, which is where traditional technology often fails. So I say that I think we could start to see Canada's productivity line over the same chart of the pervasive usage of software as a service, and I think they would line up. That we're now just so many screens and so many logins that we really run the risk to exacerbate the problem if we don't use AI as a gateway to unlock all those different places that we're logging into, that we're switching contexts, that we're adapting to user interfaces because it's just chat now. It's just chat. The whole world, everything in business and in business and in life moving forward will be conversational. So I think we really need to reimagine our systems to be more human centric like that, and that's the opportunity that we have.
Well, and I'm going to make a suggestion. I think this is where those of us who are, shall we say, a little more of a fine-aged wine have a massive advantage in adapting to this world once we get through the learning curve, because we have in living memory a point in time where the way that you got something done was through conversation, right? I mean, when I started in my career, we didn't, fax machines were the way that we did things quick. Yeah, laugh, go ahead, laugh at me. But
I
it's
did a
true. I mean,
fax out one time. I faxed out like to 200 schools one time. It's like,
right? I mean, this was a job. You stood and you did
Yeah.
but we had to do things on the telephone and in person.
Mhm.
Uh, so not every computer, or, sorry, not every desk had a computer. I think, one of the things that people who are more seasoned need to really recognize is that you have value, huge value that you bring to the workforce, and skills that you have that not necessarily have been passed down as the world has evolved to be more digitalized, that you can bring back to help people with how to frame a verbal request so that the constraints are clearer. Some of those skills, when you apply those in a prompt engineering framework, are huge. The importance of preciseness in language.
We're talking a lot during this uncertainty brief that we're doing for the lives about strategic planning. And so when we talk about AI and we talk about automation and we talk about data ops and we kind of ask the questions, we are doing it a lot in our group, but that's because we're more in the know. And so there's a lot of people out there who I think from a boot camp perspective could do with the conversations of just understanding the simple pieces, the step one and step two that you need to do to just go, oh, it's actually not that hard. Okay, well, let me take step three and get excited about it. And so, when we look about where this fits in business, it can fit in every department.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
not just a one and done.
Yeah, we have a few different strategies to kind of, I feel like I've become radicalized, but folks always say, I talk to especially highly manual businesses where we're managing spreadsheets, and people will say, I got all these people coming in saying, I need an ERP system. I need an ERP system. I say, you have one. It's just that the databases are these spreadsheets that live on each and every individual computer, and the algorithms are up here. And so I think where we're is we're not just we all have access to the entire published works of humankind. And it's in different models and it's different and it's all chat right now. Chat GPT, it's Copilot, it's all the different AI models that we can access. So we move into this wisdom economy because, knowledge is one thing, but AI will never have the lived experience, the 40 years, of my experiences across, travel, baseball, manufacture. You know what I mean? That wisdom that I've gained. And I think that that's the really cool, again, opportunity as you see how us folks with a gray beard like me, how I'm going to transition in the workforce. It's really to focus on the wisdom that I've developed throughout my professional experiences. So it's not swinging the hammer, it's where I hit the thing, right? I know where to hit the thing with the hammer. Anyone can swing a hammer. That's for free, but you need to know where to hit the thing to get the most effect out of it. And I think to your point, Paula and Susan, it turns back as a big mirror on your communication skills. People come and, oh, the AI is not doing anything. The AI is not doing it right. I don't think that exists anymore. I think it's all that you haven't communicated well with it. So yeah, think about it as an employee on their first day. If you don't tell the employee and give it all the context for the task at hand, it's going to go away and try and do its best for you. And it's going to fill in the gaps as best as its knowledge, and it's going to think that it did a great job for you, right? But it didn't have everything. You're going to go, oh no, employee, go back and you go to this database and look at this. Oh, of course, right? So it's the same thing with AI. We just have to be a little more patient, a little more communicative, and a little more strategic in the way we implement it in our business and in our personal lives.
I saw a case study over the weekend. I was doom scrolling LinkedIn, and I saw a case study where someone said that they had changed the way they speak to their AI. Specifically, they removed the word think was one of the big changes they made. They removed the word think and replaced it with analyze. So instead of saying, "What do you think about?" they said, "Can you please analyze and determine?" And that tiny little shift reduced their hallucination and error rate. I can't remember the number, but they basically said that they were able to significantly reduce the error rate by being more precise in their language and focusing on de-anthropomorphizing. I didn't say that right, but basically they stopped talking to the AI like it was a human and started talking to the AI like it was a tool, like it was there to augment human, not. So removing the partner mindset was kind of the ideas. Where AI is not my partner, it is my utility, and it's here to augment me. So it should do things for me, not collaborate with me.
Mm-hmm.
I like to tell people the story of one of my first experiences with this exact piece. Last December, I was building a bot. It's one of my very first times trying to build a bot. And it was simple in theory, but the little pieces that I didn't know, and the way I was trying to figure out how to do this, I went down a spiral of, lost 5 hours at one point, only to find out that the LLM that I was using, in this case, ChatGPT, was really, really not analyzing. And it couldn't think outside the box. And so, in that theme of garbage in, garbage out, until I, as a human, had the aha moment that, oh, you just said that, that's important for this, which solves that problem. And I did not have to actually spend that 5 hours going down a rabbit hole. Thank you very much, you little, you know what. And then it all worked out perfectly. But it's the human in the loop still has to be there. We have the experience and the expertise, and we just don't need to move the data. We just don't need to do the simple pieces. There's a lot of tools and tech out there that can do that for us now, but we have to be there. It's not going to know what we intuitively know.
Yeah, Susan, I'm on a crusade. It's my personal crusade, but I'm on a crusade. I want us to stop saying human in the loop. It's AI in the loop. The human is the driver. The AI is the tool. We are plugging AI into a human-centered process. I think sometimes the way that technology is sold to us, it is sold to us, especially as leaders, as this is going to replace all those annoying humans that you have to work with and pay and vacation pay and sick time and benefits. And we're going to replace all those costs with an innate, inanimate piece of software that's going to do the work for you, and you can go to a beach in Hawaii. But it never works out that way. At least in my lifetime, it has never worked out that way. So let's talk AI in the loop. Where can we plug AI into what you're already doing to take away those time suck tasks and give you more time to have more impact, give you more time to move your goals forward, serve your community better, grow your business, whatever it is. That's where AI really shines.
Yeah, and we have a lot of tools and frameworks in place already to find those opportunities. A lot of businesses subscribe to lean methodologies. In lean methodologies, we have non-value added activities. Those are the things that your customers don't pay you to do. One thing that every business I've ever visited, one non-value added activity that every business I've ever visited does, is they pay people to produce reports. That's gone. That lives in the past. That's a non-value added activity. No customer is paying for you to produce reports. And we're successfully able to turn that over to AI right now and make it conversational so that we can do idea, action, impact, and we can just have a conversation with our business data. And I think that that's a great place that any business can start.
And you know what, John? I think that's a great place to leave it because Susan and I could keep you here all day. I know you have work to get to and other meetings. We have other meetings. This has been a fascinating conversation. I definitely want to have more, but let's just chat for a minute. If people are listening to what you're saying and they're saying, hey, you know what? I'd like to get me some of this on-premise Canadian. I can manage the security. I can manage the cost. I can build tools that have linear, not compounding price increases. This is commercially available right now,
Yes.
and Susan and I both partner with you. In fact, that is how we met was through that. But reach out if you are thinking about how do I do AI. There are some amazing programs that are out there, and both Susan and I work with John and the team at Evermore to deliver boot camps for companies that are really interested in building some owned AI technology, some data sovereignty, where we'll train your whole team in everything you need to know to start building out proof of concept and utility using AI that is incredibly affordable, entirely on Canadian servers. What am I missing, John?
Talk about return on investment, not return on cost, because they're oftentimes that's the biggest transition that we need to move to, and really how do we structure this as investments in our people and in our businesses. Thanks for having me today. I had a blast today. Thanks, Paula. Thanks, Susan.
Before we go, just because
Yes.
I'd like to do just a little plug for something that Evermore is doing. John, can you talk a little bit about the communities?
Yeah, Evermore community. We've been talking to chambers and different associations across the country, and we try to look at how AI can be used as a benefit to different member-driven organizations. And member-driven organizations have, their memberships. This could be a professional organization. And they also have their sponsors and they have their partners. And how does this all converge? And how can we create member benefits through sovereign AI? So we look at different ways that the community can, let's take the Excellence in Manufacturing Consortium of Canada, for example, within their community of AI, they could have a model that helps people with their hiring pipeline, create a job description for certain roles that exist in manufacturing. So the job description is there, any employment documents, here are some templates, and then interview questions, that sort of stuff. We can have, lean manufacturing, green manufacturing, different models that have been fine-tuned to really add value to the membership at large. And then the sponsors and partners can get involved as well with, the Canada Life insurance model, where you can learn all about your benefits and your insurance like that. So we've had a great number of conversations and building some proofs of concept with different communities on Evermore AI community, which is I think a real burgeoning application and use case for AI in an open source sovereign manner. So thanks for calling that out, Susan.
No problem. Well, I am super stoked and excited because there's a lot that can be accomplished by making good use of technology. As we wrap up, Paula, what are we doing tomorrow? What are we talking about?
Really how um, how knowing your customer is going to unlock what to do with everything else we've been talking about. And I've got some really cool stuff about how AI can help you with that because it is amazing as a tool for customer research.
Awesome. Thank you
Yeah,
so much, everybody, for joining us today. Did I miss anything, guys?
I don't think so. I don't
I
think
don't
so.
think
Have
so.
a great Tuesday, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow for episode 7.